Hi, everyone. My name is Michelle Taylor. I'm a certified surgeon, copywriter, and, excuse me, I've got an echo, copywriter and coach who helps medical professionals who feel unfulfilled or undervalued in their jobs so that they can gain a promotion, find their next position, and reconnect with their calling. I've been noticing something over the past few years and even before COVID started, and I'm sure you have too. More and more people in healthcare are not feeling satisfied with their job. Like the profession is not what they expected, isn't what it isn't what it was when they expected. So many people feel like they're not being valued for their contributions, and they're facing pay cuts, furloughs, and high education debt. The worst part is when I read comments that say, "I can't fix this and I can't do anything else." While I understand how people feel, I also say to myself, but what do you mean you can't do anything else? You were a whole person for a good 21 or 22 years before you entered medical school. You are so much more than your job. Now, if we define an entrepreneur as somebody who identifies a problem, then they create a business that gives a solution, and then they're compensated for the value that they deliver, I'm sure you're going to recognize that there are many opportunities right in front of you. Let me give you some examples from the hospital. Situation. I was a young, new physician to my organization, and I needed to build my patient base beyond relying on the ER for my referrals. The usual practice was to put some notice in the local press and then go visit the referring doctors with coffee and bagels. But I noticed that there was a huge gap in my market when it came to endoscopy services. Most patients were waiting 6 months to a year for screening appointments. So by doing things differently, I was able to quadruple my endoscopy clinical volumes in 1 year. The hospital CEO said that he had never received so many positive handwritten notes from patients praising any department in the hospital. But more importantly, because of my increased clinical volumes, nobody from that department had to be furloughed during the last recession. Here's a situation. EMRs. I've been dealing with EMRs since I was in medical school, and the usual practice is to translate the paper charts to paper orders to electronic orders without considering all of the regulatory and quality metric things that affect our workflows. Many of the private practice doctors said that they were going to leave our hospital and go to the competition. By doing things differently, I was able to advocate for the physicians so that all of those quality metrics and regulatory things were placed in the back end so that physicians weren't treated as glorified data entry clerks. Those private practice physicians stayed with our hospital, and I was recruited for the 6-hospital implementation of our EMR. Situation, clinical leadership. So as a young section chief, I recognize that most people gained their clinical leadership skills slowly over many years. And the hospital leadership had this tendency to only include the chief medical officer and chief of staff for issues that affected all physicians. So by doing things differently, I invested in my own business education, and I had the healthcare system invest in me so that I could get some clinical leadership education. You know, those hospital leadership meetings, I invited myself to them. And that's part of the reason why I was so effective in starting new service lines and making the EMR implementation be less painful. But more importantly, were the relationships that I developed with the non-clinical leadership of the hospital. Interestingly enough, the finance department was able to give me some more accurate information about the value that I contributed to the organization, information that had not been shown to me previously. Rest assured, I made sure that I was compensated appropriately. Now, being a creative problem solver has helped me in many ways. And I'm not just talking about being an administrator, because I'm a doctor that other doctors come to and they trust with their care. But because of my experiences, I was able to help many people deal and resolve challenging work situations or help them market themselves for new opportunities. And speaking of opportunities, I've had jobs created just for me. I've been able to serve on medical and healthcare boards of organizations to help them with their people and business management. And I've also had federal appointments to committees that work on eliminating disparities of care. So if I can do it, you can too, because you are so much more than your job. Now, you may be saying to me, you know, Michelle, I'm really not keen on this whole idea of doing more volunteer committees, and that's part of the reason why I'm burnt out. But remember, as an entrepreneur or an intrapreneur, if you're going to be solving problems for your organization, you should always be compensated for the value that you deliver. And I'm not just talking about gaining new skills or good karma, because karma will not pay your mortgage. There are many tangible ways for you to be compensated for the value that you deliver beyond just an increase in your salary. So, what's some good entrepreneurial advice that I could give you? I think some of the best advice that I've heard is that you should protect your confidence. See, when you're confident, it doesn't mean that you always know what you're doing or things are always going to go your way, because they won't. It means that you know that no matter what happens, you're going to get through it. As an entrepreneur, you're going to recognize that many people want to maintain the status quo. So, to protect your confidence, be careful about who you share your entrepreneurial ideas with for feedback and support. Now, I'm not saying to keep things a secret, but sometimes even your friends and family might not feel comfortable with change. And while your Aunt Sally might be the best person in the world to get life and relationship advice, if she hasn't started or grown her own business, maybe you should seek your advice elsewhere. And speaking of advice, to protect your confidence, be wary of people who constantly quote gurus and other popular marketing folks, especially if they say that their way is the only way to do business. Can you imagine if during my surgery attending, my attending said, Michelle, page 253 of the Saberson surgery text states the gallbladder must be removed thusly. This is the way, this is the only way. That's nonsense. Just like there are multiple safe and proven ways to perform a cholecystectomy, there are multiple safe and proven ways to solve business problems. That's why during my training, more likely I would hear, okay, Michelle, page 253 is a great foundation. Let's talk about how we're going to do a laparoscopic approach in a patient with multiple previous surgeries and a short and wide cystic duct. The quality of the advice, very different. To protect your confidence, you want to surround yourself with like-minded, encouraging people in a community that are going to help you do things differently and better. That's the environment that Dr. Una has created here in the EntreMD Business School. Now, protecting your confidence means that you need to protect your energy and time. Anytime you say yes to a new venture or learning new skills, that means you're going to have to say no to other things like free time. And so many people, including physicians, have a hard time saying no without feeling guilty. Fortunately, I've got a resource for you. It's called How to Say No to Your Boss and Still Succeed at Your Job. You'll find that at thrivenext2now.com/no. That's Thrive Next, the number 2, now.com/no. Thrive Next to Now is a new coaching practice and supportive community that focuses on showing you the next best thing that you can do so that you can live the life and have the medical career that you deserve. You may notice that the website and Facebook presence are new, but they're an extension of the work I've been doing offline for about 15 years. So welcome to my online quinceañera. In closing, I want you to consider this. Imagine living in a world where you define yourself by more than your job, where you treat yourself with the same care and compassion that you give your patients, and where every day you wake up knowing that you're living for your full life purpose. I can help you get there. The EntreMD Business School will support you too. I'd like to thank Dr. Una for the opportunity to share my story, and until we meet again, be well.